4, 5, and 6, we're finding the limits from a graph. And so basically we're going to look at the limit from each side as we approach the value we're looking for. And if the limit as we approach from the negative side is, or the positive side is the same as the limit as we approach from the negative side, then the limit is whatever that number is. If my values are two different numbers, then my limit does not exist. So this is telling me of my graph H, as x approaches -1 from the positive side. So here's where -1 is. As I approach it from the positive side, my value gets closer and closer to 2. If I do my limit of my function as x approaches -1 from the negative direction, I'm coming from this direction, I'm going to have 3 for my limit. Since those two numbers are not the same number, then we're going to say that our limit does not exist. So the only way a limit exists is if it approaches the same number as you come from both directions. Otherwise, your limit does not exist. So if we look at number 5. Number 5, we're looking at our function h as x approaches -2 from the negative direction. So I'm approaching -2 from the negative direction. My limit here would be 1. This tells us to approach -2 from the positive direction. So if I come from the positive direction, as I go to -2, I'm going to end up at -1. Again, those two numbers are not the same thing, so my limit does not exist as x approaches -2 because I have two different values when I come from the negative direction and when I come from the positive direction. On my third one here, I have a function g. I'm going to say as x approaches 4 from the positive direction. So from the positive direction, here's my 4. I'm coming this way, and so I'm approaching 2. On the second part, as x approaches 4 from the negative direction. Well, it doesn't mean I'm starting in the negative spot. It just means I'm on the other side of 4, so I'm coming from the numbers that are smaller than 4. Remember on our table when we were doing 5, they started at 6 and went to 4, then they started at 6 and went to 5, and then they started at 4 and went to 5. So here, when they say coming from the positive direction, I'm coming from the right side. When they say coming from the negative direction, I'm coming from the left side. I'm approaching 2 for both of those, so this time we can say, oh yes, this one does have a limit as x approaches 4, both from the positive direction and the negative direction, or both from the left and the right, they're both coming towards 2. So when I look at my graph and it has the plus sign, it means I'm coming from the positive direction, but it really means I'm coming from the right side of my graph. Here, I'm coming from the negative direction, I'm coming from the left side of that point, and if I have the same value, then a limit does exist at that value. If they're not the same value, then the limit does not exist.